Hi to those who have joined already. We'll just give it a couple more minutes just to give time for others to join, and then we'll kick off, okay? Right, I think if we start now, for those who have already joined, and then obviously when more people join as we go, we can pick things up and reintroduce if we need to. So thank you to those who have joined, and for those who are watching back on record once we've sent this out. Thank you for joining us. I'm really excited to be here, and we're going to be talking about HR strategy, how we leverage HR tech and AI to drive those strategies that we have within the business. So just to introduce myself, my name's Hannah. I am a head of people by profession. I've been working within the HR space for almost 15 years now. In a number of different types of businesses, but currently working within a tech business called Friday Media Group. And alongside that, I'm also a co-founder of helloFriday, which is a all-in-one HR platform that fits within the HR tech space. And I'm really excited to have Michael here with me today. Michael is an expert on AI, particularly within HR tech, but I'll let him introduce himself to you now properly.
Hi, yeah, thank you. Also to Hannah and obviously the helloFriday team. Great to be here, and always fun to talk about technology and AI across the HR spectrum. So Michael Halling, I've worked in the HR sector for about the last 12 years, run a consultancy that specializes in HR transformation from strategy, vendor selection, products, right through to consulting and AI. EquipAI is our current leading AI tool. And yeah, really excited to be here. Thank you very much for having me, and hope people enjoy what we talk about.
Yeah, of course. Myself and Michael have already had quite a few interesting conversations. We've had to stop ourselves from delving too deep into these kind of discussions so we could save them for today. And I'm really looking forward to kind of talking a little bit more about AI and expanding on the conversations we've already had. So in terms of today's agenda, what we're going to be covering, hopefully over the next 30, 40 minutes or so, we're going to be touching on a number of points, including the evolution of HR tech. So where we've come from, how much it's advanced already, some of the benefits of HR and HR tech and AI within the space. We'll be looking at some practical case studies as well. So how can we apply these in real life situations? Where have they succeeded already? How to integrate with your strategy as well. So we'll put a big focus on HR strategy and how do we actually bring those to success and overcome any challenges as well. So in order to kick off, I think it's always really important when we're talking about a topic or a subject, we kind of look back a little bit as to where we've come from. I won't touch too much on this, but I think, and Michael, you'll probably agree, there's definitely been a huge advancement within HR tech over the last 5-10 years, I'd say, particularly from my own experience. I mean, 10 years ago, I was working in a role and everything was done on this, on the spreadsheet via email. 1979 was the first spreadsheet, and I feel like up until maybe mid 2010s, we were still very much using those to manage how we manage our teams, how we book our holidays, how we manage our people directories, and that was really how HR teams functioned. And particularly over the last few years, we've definitely seen the emergence of a lot of different HR platforms, cloud-based platforms that cover the entire life cycle, not just the payroll or the administration parts of HR as a role. And particularly looking forward, there's a huge focus on AI and HR tech. There's lots of different platforms that do a number of different things. We finally have apps that we're able to manage our people through. So it's come a long way from where it used to be.
I think I think to help with it as well is the fact that I think HR now has a place at the table on the boardroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the technology has helped give that empowerment and the access to the data. So I think that transition pathway could almost mirror it with then companies that now have HR board members that helps bring the message through from the ground right through to strategy.
Absolutely, I think that's such a key point. We very much used to be a administration function, and that was the means to an end of it. But now we're very much strategic, as you say. It does feel like we're finally getting that place on the table, and there are budgets, and there is a demand to be able to manage our people better and to bring tech in line with that as well. So, while I was doing the research and sort of putting this presentation together, I came across loads of old images of old intranets and spreadsheets and platforms that we used to use, and I just thought I'd share with them because it is really a massive shift when you look at sort of the platforms that exist today and the UX and the design and the functionality that we have in many of the platforms that we use. And I really just wanted to include them because I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole looking at the old sort of like PeopleSoft and the old intranets that used to exist, and it is massive kudos really to the platforms that we have today. So in terms of an overview of HR technology and AI, this really leads to our first discussion point that me and Michael will have in terms of how are these changing the world of HR today. So from my perspective, very much my expertise lies within sort of HR technologies that already exist and the future of HR tech. So very much looking at those that cover the entire employee's life cycle. So when we talk about HR tech, we're not just talking about the HR platforms that exist today or the HRM platforms that are out there. We're also talking about every aspect of our employees' journey, right from recruitment. So our applicant tracking systems, there's lots of applicant tracking systems out there that will really take your candidates through an entire journey through to offer and hire. Employee engagement platforms and benefits management. So if that's tools that we might use like Perkbox or other tools that are out there to be able to reward and recognise employees, to engage with them, to really build a culture within the workplace. Performance management systems. So, for example, through helloFriday, we've got a performance management system that completely manages all aspects of goal setting, objectives, and how we manage those, along with learning management systems as well, and obviously payroll. So there is a piece of HR tech for every aspect of the employee life cycle out there, and AI falls very heavily within that now, and will continue to grow. So I suppose that does lead to our first discussion point. Michael, how do you feel that these tools and these technologies are changing the world of HR today?
I think this is an interesting question to discuss. So I think there's two parts to that, maybe even three. I think one is talent intelligence. I think is becoming fundamentally important, helping strategic workforce planning and helping companies to understand how to upskill, reskill, retain, and hire, as you said. But they're also at the same time, watching out for AI ethics and recruitment in terms of European legal areas as well. But I think what we're seeing a lot of is two main areas of AI that are coming through. AI for process automation. So that's whereby we're taking tasks. So you think things such as EquipAI, our tool, but also IBM's Watson, and things like SkyHive and TechWolf, skills aggregators that help you use intelligence within those workforces. And then secondly, which is what I think most of us probably know, is the embedded AIs that helps you with your learning, to give you a suggested curriculum or a learning pathway or even a career pathway. But equally, that fits at home. We use Netflix, use Spotify. You already have AI around you every day, doing something on your phone, whether it be Siri. So I think the AI is the way that we're seeing the fastest change now since obviously 2021. And I think that's where, combined with the foundation in good technology that's around now, I think we're going to see a massive change and accelerated state over the next sort of 6 to 12 months.
Agreed. I think it's a really interesting point. You mentioned the tools that we use in our day-to-day life. We're so lucky to have many things that we enjoy using and we go back to use and make our lives a lot easier. And I definitely feel a shift within the HR space that actually they're not just a means to an end anymore. They're tools that do make our lives a lot easier, and there are tools that we enjoy using. And from my perspective, I think the big shift happened when the world of work started to change in terms of the remote working, hybrid working, different generations within the workplace, and actually the demand came from that. So the tools needed to match that, and they have allowed us to be much more remote and much more accessible in the way we build our teams and manage culture from far away, but also the way in which we respond to a different generation of employees who actually now demand, a more better welfare, better well-being, more rewards within the workplace. And actually, I really feel like HR tech and AI is keeping up with that and allowing that to happen and changing the way in which businesses and HR leaders manage their teams.
Yeah, I think so. And I think also it just brings in that sort of hyper personalization, doesn't it? Again, where you choose your Netflix, Spotify, or DJ Spotify at home, it allows the tech to meet the person rather than the person having to go and meet the tech. I think that's a shift that we're going to feel, where you invoke a behavior where you want people want to go and log in to go and upskill or to look at internal mobility because they're interested, as opposed to going, oh, I've got to go and do that compliance training or whatever is in a lot of the systems and a few years back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's putting the ownership a little bit more on the employee and allowing them to take ownership of their needs and wants within the workplace. But tech being able to allow that to happen. So in terms of the benefits, before we sort of touched on the benefits, we can talk you through what the benefits of HR tech are, and we will, but I thought it would be really interesting to get the audience's perspective on some of the biggest benefits HR tech has brought to you within your role. So whether or not you're a HR leader, you can answer this as a HR leader. Or if you're an employee and you've been on the other end of HR tech and you've experienced how it's benefited you as an employee, it would be great to hear some answers. So if you'd like to just pop in the chat box along the bottom panel, there is the chat. If you'd like to just type a couple of answers in the chat box, that'd be really great. And Michael and I can then discuss these with you before we sort of touch on some of the other benefits that we've identified. So I think, Abraz popped the question in the webinar chat. So please feel free to answer that and leave some answers within the chat box and we can talk through those.
Yeah, I think whilst that's sort of starting to warm up, I think one thing I was lucky enough to do recently, I went to the CIPD Festival of Work. I know you as well. But before that, I also went to the AI Summit in the morning. And what was really fascinating was at the AI Summit in the morning, we had Crystal Johnson from NASA talking about life and building life on Mars using AI and swarm robots and habitat building. All the stuff that you think about, I don't really know how that works, but that's great to hear. And then we had, in the afternoon, I went to the CIPD and there was Dex Hunter Torek there from Google DeepMind. And he was talking about AI and how you govern two different worlds. So in one sort of single day, two totally different typical technology areas merged and had the same conversation running, all about how do we enable, how do we use, and how do we see it helping us move to the next stage. And that was truly an interesting day. If you ever get a chance, Dexter Hunter Horrick or something from NASA, take a look at their stuff on LinkedIn. It's amazing.
I think that's really useful because particularly, and we'll touch on this a little bit later when we delve into that a bit deeper, but so much information out there about AI and what's coming up, and it's really difficult to pinpoint resources that are credible, valid, and to direct you in the right place. So we've got an answer in terms of enhanced data analytics and recruitment. So very much I think that's key. We're going to talk about strategy later on through this presentation, and when it comes to strategy, there's there's no point in having a strategy unless you have your analytics and your reporting and your follow-up afterwards. And particularly, it's something I've really benefited from, is being able to have those analytics to hand, being able to have them more tailored to the results that you need into your business. And HR Tech's been a huge impact in that. Some of the other benefits that come from HR Tech are very much streamlined processes. Again, we're not an administrative function as we used to be. So being able to streamline a lot of those processes, I think I read somewhere that 35% of a HR role is taken up through administration. And some of that is very much necessary, but it does allow us to feed into a more strategic role and be able to make impacts in the business where we haven't been able to before. Integrating with tech stack as well, I think has been absolutely key. There was a time where I used to have 5 or 6 different platforms at once, and my employees didn't know where to log into or what did what. So being able to integrate tech into one place and have everything all together, and being able to really get your return on investment and adoption rates from being able to kind of link everything together, absolutely has been a huge benefit. Gamification to drive engagement and culture. So again, being able to use tech to do that for you, being able to build a culture off the back of gamification and automation within your systems. And also just in terms of being able to provide consistency through manual entry and making sure everything is compliant and it's correct has been a huge benefit. I don't know if you want to add to any of that, Michael, in terms of benefits you found within having HR Tech and AI.
Yeah, I was going to talk more about the cultural, I think, side, how you can strengthen your organizational culture by the AI, especially because obviously you can help the AI and the agents find a voice and say, this is a typical expression we might use in this question with an employee or a line manager or a HRB, whatever they might be. So I think back to the point earlier on, yes, data analytics and the enhancements around that with talent intelligence is great. Strengthening of the culture, the feedback culture, recognition and coaching, so the reward side and gamification, I think is a really strong benefit that people then, as they want to go to the technology to look at it. I saw obviously your product and that really engaging front page where you've got access to everything you need to have, and then the more the systems have that ability to draw you in, the more time you'll spend in it, and therefore the more you'll learn or develop in line with the video. So yeah, really interesting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So following on from the benefit side of things, just in terms of some practical applications and case studies, I think it's always important to touch on actually where have these things benefited and been successful in real life. So we won't go too deep into these, but just to touch on an example in terms of helloFriday and Friday Media Group. So within my own business, I wanted to give you a little bit of background in terms of where we've seen the benefits of having HR Tech within the organisation. So I mentioned previously that we used to have, I think I counted 6 different products that did varying different things, from payroll through to like an engagement newsfeed, through to a benefits platform, through to our booking holiday system. Everything was separate and employees were disconnected. They didn't know where to log in. We have offices all over the place, particularly after COVID, we were working remotely, and everything just felt very disjointed. It was very difficult to manage. It was very difficult to implement strategy through so many different platforms, and it was really difficult to engage with employees. So within our own business, we took on the challenge. Some people called us crazy, but we did it anyway, to found helloFriday. And that was really for internal use only. There was never a desire to take it commercial, but it was something that after conversations we realized there was actually quite a lot of demand for, because a lot of businesses were in the same position. So we created a product that we really wanted to have and we couldn't find elsewhere, in order to build something that would connect our teams, bring everyone together in one space, help foster a culture of collaboration and recognition, whilst also managing all the core HR and linking and integrating everything together. And from doing that, I've seen a massive increase in engagement. I feel like across the business, people who didn't know each other's names, they know each other's names now. They're working together. They know what each other does. It's really clear to identify where people are working from, what people are working on, and their achievements and their successes. And we've seen a massive increase in our employee satisfaction scores and our retention rates from being able to have this level of collaboration across the business. So that's one example of where HR Tech has been successful. There is also many studies out there in terms of AI and recruitment. I think actually, and again, Michael, this might be something that you agree with from my perspective, where I've seen AI being used initially within the HR space has very much been within recruitment and resourcing. And I think that's a really easy area of HR to start implementing your AI tools, whether that be from ChatGTP and being able to kind of tailor and save time with your job descriptions and your adverts and CVs and all of that kind of stuff, through to being able to go one step further. So, for example, MasterCard, they are a prime example of a business who's been able to really streamline their recruitment process through AI-led interviews, through sourcing and parsing of candidate applications, and it saved them, I think, 85% in terms of their journey from from application to hire, just through being able to streamline a lot of their processes through AI. So they're just a couple of practical applications of where HR tech has been really successful. And I don't know whether there was something from an EquipAI perspective that you wanted to touch on, Michael.
Yeah, there's a couple of things as well. I think also another example, I think recruitment, which is some of the chat side, is around Unilever. I think since 2021, they've used AI within their recruitment process. And statistics that digital strategy consulting have sort of elevated is they process around 2 million job applications annually. And using AI, they reckon they saved about 50,000 hours of interview time. So
that's insane, isn't it? 50,000 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what process they use, and I don't know whether all the human in the loop process that goes alongside that to validate, but it's huge. And I think the example that we'll talk through on Equip is similar to one that Boston Consulting Group are quoting, that an generative AI can save around 30% across HR processes. And we're working with an example at the moment with a client who's looking at a return on investment model where they get about 6,000 emails a month coming in to their HR inbox, questions such as how can I, or where can I, and how to do things. And what we're finding is EquipAI is built on sort of information architecture. It's information you have in your organization already, and it enables then the AI to be asked a question in a large language model in multiple translations that the user can ask the question, because most often people want to go and find out the answers themselves. We calculated off 6,000 emails a month. If we answered 2,000 of those, you're looking at about 17 hours saved a month for 1 or 2 people working on that inbox. And that's the sort of the easy part of AI. You can roll into that and start that sort of low-level automation of tasks. And I know in the chat there was a comment around, can you do it for non-administrative tasks? I think there will be time when we can. I mean, you can now have goals that you create goals, and then you can have the AI redefine the goal and to make it clearer for measures. So I think we'll get towards that point. But again, the question I'd use is that human in the loop to protect some of the processes. And we've got somebody trained London School of Economics that's certified in AI ethics on purpose, so that we are honouring what we think AI should do and not what it shouldn't do. And so for us, it's a bit of a delicate balance of automation to support general day-to-day Q&A for HR teams, but not to replace a process entirely that needs a human to make supporting conversations or aid. But earlier on, you said about well-being, there's a big element that AI is never going to take care of that. It can recognize traits of behavior, but it shouldn't ever interfere with that without having a human involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see a couple of interesting questions coming in about this as well. And I think definitely further down our conversation, we'll be touching on this a little bit more. But I do think it's, at the end of the day, when we're working in HR, we're people, and there's always going to be an element of maybe fear around allowing, technology to take over that role. And as you mentioned, in some ways, I think there are definitely elements that never could be replaced but by technology and do still need that human element involved.
Yeah, and I think just to pick up on Sam's point around human bias. I mean, we saw in Amazon turned on recruitment AI a couple of years ago, and that was shut down within 24 hours because the hiring manager that they tracked had bias and would only employ certain sort of type of person. So actually, they had to shut it down. So what they should have done was not close it down, was start to educate the bias in the AI.
Yeah.
So EquipAI will tell you where there's bias. It won't tell you what you should do about it, but it will just say this is an expression of bias within your tooling. So I think that is something that has to be learned by the AI that you have in your company over time, and has to eradicate the bias. So line manager can still potentially be biased, unfortunately, but the AI will recognize that and then adjust it. I think that's the power that I think is coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. We're still at the beginning of this AI journey as well. And I think something that's being massively learned still is how do we tackle that bias within AI tech. In terms of how do we build our HR strategy around our HR tech then? So we've touched on the benefits, we've touched on the type of tech that exists. And I think one of the most difficult things as a HR leader is then being able to understand how do we integrate this within our strategies, and how do we actually make it successful within our organizations. And in terms of how we achieve this, it all begins from how we outline our goals. So we need to take a step back. We need to look at the tools that already exist within our organizations, the tools that we're using. Are they working? Are they fitting the need that we have? Everything stems from those goals that you want to achieve. So is it that your strategy is looking at recruitment, and how do you save money and streamline your recruitment process? Are we looking at culture as a huge driver of our strategy, and how do the tools that we have already help with that and support that, or is there a gap there? So it all begins from being able to assess the need, and the need stems from the goals of what you want to achieve within your organization. Then you conduct that review of your current tech stack. You identify any gaps. You identify any integrations that could exist to make life a lot easier. You look at your budget. Are the tools that you have at the moment being adopted? Are they being used? Is there a return on investment? And then you select a platform that directly fits these goals that you want to achieve. So that involves a number of conversations. There are so many tools out there. I would always encourage any HR leader to be exploring all the different features that exist in many different platforms, so you're completely knowledgeable on what's out there and how's that going to fit into the strategy that you've created. And I think where maybe I've fallen down in the past and learned is always involve key stakeholders in decisions and feedback. So that's with your strategy and with the tools that you choose. So when you're implementing a strategy, we have the knowledge, we're the HR professionals, but I always refer back to the people who are going to be utilizing it and adopting it. And that's from strategy through to the tools that you use. So involve those key stakeholders in that decision. And that includes your managers, your senior leadership, your employees, and anybody who might be involved in actually adopting and using that technology. So 10 billion is invested in HR tech each year, and there's only a 5% adoption rate. That's a huge amount of money that is being spent. There's obviously a huge demand from HR leaders and from boards to be investing in this. Michael mentioned earlier that it really demonstrates that there's now a seat at the table and the role of HR has changed. But that adoption rate is still low, and that comes down to the tech potentially, but also in terms of how do we actually implement and make sure that our HR tech is successful. So again, clear launch goals, stakeholders buy-in, absolutely crucial. Ensuring that your tech can be customized to your business needs. So really asking the right questions when you're adopting that technology. Is it that you have a particular shift pattern because of your industry? Is it because your teams are not sat at a laptop all the time? They need to be on the go. Is it being able to customize particular policies or time zones or countries, and being able to match benefits to particular offices that you have? Being able to customize is absolutely crucial within any platform, because a whole host of issues can come out if you're not able to. Always check integrations, always check open APIs, make sure that your Slack and your Teams connects with the tools that you have to really drive adoption. And then for the implementation, you want to make sure that your customer support and what the provider offers is top tier, and that you've got that follow-up. One thing that I've seen happen, and that tends to end unsuccessfully, is when launching a platform or a product as part of your strategy as a whole to an entire business. It tends to be quite a minefield of a task, and once you've done it, it's quite irreversible. So one piece of advice that I would always give is launch with smaller groups. So pilot your tech with smaller teams within your business, and that could be teams that have managers who are quite switched on with their tech, or they're quite involved and they're quite active in terms of their management strategy, and that pilot is crucial then to be able to get feedback, track usage, gain feedback from the teams, and be able to ensure that actually what you're launching fits with the goals that you've set. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Michael, from what you've seen from implementing EquipAI into businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I'd add that list, and I'd probably add to it again with our own personal experiences. I think, as you say, clear goals. So, I guess we tend to use it as problem statements. So make sure you know exactly what the problem is that you're trying to solve. Strategies can be very big and can be lacking a lot of detail when it comes down to a physical ROI moment. I think we all understand that a project implementation can be a bumpy journey. You have to socialize what you're doing an awful lot. I think the importance of change management and employee training is paramount.
Absolutely.
People aren't gonna watch it, but also just be open and aware that the project might go through difficult periods, both with the supplier and internally, because people's focus will change. So one thing we spend lots of doing is talking an awful lot to stakeholders, doing lots of communication webinars to big groups of people. So you always, every 3 to 4 weeks, you're always doing some comms, just so people don't forget what's coming. And then you've got obviously the change management process right through from the go live itself through then to adoption metrics thereafter, and how we nudge the messaging. But like doing a marketing campaign, you keep nudging through the release so that people are aware of it. But yeah, all of those, and probably a handful more.
Yeah, 100%. I think communication absolutely key. It's so easy to launch something and then let it go and hope that it works itself. But I think, as you said, the communication beforehand is absolutely paramount, ensuring that change management's being managed, but also the follow-up. So constantly communicating, gaining feedback, touching base with the teams that are using your tools to make sure that you're getting the real return that you want from the platform that you've chosen. So it's time for an interactive poll, just to make sure that you're all still there. So, and we've touched on this a little bit as well, actually. It's come up a couple of times in the chat box and through our conversation already. But in terms of what the biggest fear of HR professionals and what it is when introducing AI into the workplace, what do we think the biggest fear is that HR professionals have when it comes to AI? So you can find the poll along the bottom panel. Oh, I think it's popped up. Here you go. So if you'd just like to respond to that, it would be good to see what others think in terms of what the biggest fear is. And I think it'll be a good opportunity for us then to touch a little bit more on some of these questions in terms of AI taking over the role of humans and people professionals.
As hosts and panelists cannot vote, so I can't vote. Shame.
Can't vote, shame.
They'll have to see the outcome of that one.
So we'll in fact, what we'll do is we'll let those run, and then we'll come back to those at the end, because there is going to be another poll as well. So we'll let you guys have the opportunity to pop a vote in, and then at the end we'll have a look at the responses. But in terms of overcoming some of these challenges, so, security concerns, loss and replacement of jobs, a risk of bias, and a lack of skill set being able to use the tech that's implemented, these are all some of the biggest fears that HR professionals have. And Michael, don't know whether you want to talk through, this is sort of much more your area of expertise in terms of how can we overcome some of these challenges and reduce that fear down with AI in the workplace?
Yeah, thanks for that one. I think we talk about adoption of technology. We talk about adoption of data. I think one of the areas that we're aware of that people are very concerned about with AI is data security. And you don't want to shy away from that. So there'll be the data privacy officers, there will be GDPR. So I think it's finding what those organizational resistance to change areas are going to be. We know it's going to be AI and the ethics of it. We know it's going to be AI and the ability to mine your data. So those are kind of become quite standard concepts. I mean, quite big concepts and not easy ones to answer. But I think that's one of the big areas where we look at. With also, there's a lot about trying to get cross-functional buy-in. So you talked earlier on about pilot groups. And there's a sort of a gain share in that, isn't there? You want everybody to want to be involved in your project, and then you get to choose who can be. If you have those people from different teams, then you get a much better testing sequence, you get much better design awareness, and that creates then a feeling where everybody owns part of the system, rather than it being a HR system for HR or a system that helps IT and so on. But overall, I think we would say governance. So a project, achieving a strategy, having something that's deliverable with an ROI has to start with governance. So good professional governance from the project management through to the support side, and then the transition from project state into BAU. So taking a governance model that you have in the project, and then making sure there's another fit for purpose governance model that takes you into BAU, because the business won't know what's going to hit it in some ways for support. It was helping them to go, right, this is your BAU structure, and this is what we've learned throughout our cycles, so that you're aware of where we think the areas are going to come that you're going to need to focus on, and then work through. So that's probably the sort of short answer to that one.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. And I think just, as you said, touching on from that, it is very much about training the teams, ensuring they've got the skill set. You mentioned earlier about providers of AI having that well-being in mind, and ensuring that the roles, the tech that they're providing is enhancing the person who's doing the job's role instead of replacing it completely. There's definitely a moral responsibility there, and always ensuring that compliance is met, and trying to understand the tech that you're adopting and the bias it may have, and providing AI with as much data as possible. The more data, the more usage that these tools have, the more that they learn and the more accurate that they become as well. So some emerging trends in HR tech and within AI. So we have touched on many things already in terms of the tools that already exist out there. We've got smart chatbots, you've got automation and processes. But in terms of our next discussion point, Michael, how do you think we can stay ahead of the curve and continuously innovate in HR practices?
Interesting one, this one. I was thinking about this one a bit last night. So I think there's two ways. The one way that I think a lot of people do it, including myself, is probably to read a lot. There's a lot of information coming out, which is really hard to read all of it. But you have to just find your trusted source. Let's say Harvard Business Review or whatever it is you're looking at, CIPD. It's finding where you believe the best voices for you. But equally, it's having a mindset of continual improvement, because whatever product you buy today or tomorrow will release new parts of their tech in 6 months or even less. Some products have quarterly releases, some have once a year, some have twice a year. So you have to always have this mindset of going, we want to move on, we want to change, and you have to work with a platform that has the same ambition that matches your own. So actually they release new tech at the point when you need new tech, and it's staying with that product rather than getting sort of left behind by 2 or 3 releases, and then actually you find that the release you want is maybe 3 away.
That's a really key point. And I think that's actually something we could have touched on when we talk about making sure that you're implementing your tools successfully. I think one of the key things is being up to date with the products that you do adopt, and ensuring that you're up to date with the releases and the updates, because there's so many tools and modules and features that are constantly being released in the platforms that we use, that actually we could be utilizing even further and really getting the best out of the platforms that we have. But just to add to that, from my perspective, reading is absolutely 100%, doing the research, and sometimes in our busy lives that can be quite difficult to do. I know that I can struggle to sit there and read things for a long period of time. So one thing that I found super helpful is definitely networking and conversation as well. You said, going to things like the CIPD events or HR technologies events that are kind of always happening. Just having a walk around, being able to see what's new, what's there. There was the startup zone within the HR technologies event, which was great because it was good to see what's actually coming through. But also joining networks. I mean, myself personally, I'm with in HR Ninjas and Sapien and all these different free groups that you can join as HR leaders that have amazing resources from others out there, having conversations with other HR peers to understand what they're doing and getting real life reviews about the tools that they're using to influence strategy is also absolutely key as well. So another poll should pop up shortly in terms of what percentage of businesses are using some form of AI to guide their people strategy. So this is quite an interesting one, researching actually, we talk a lot about AI coming through, but how many or what percentages of businesses are using some form already to help manage their people. So again, we'll let the answers to that come through and we'll have a look at those at the end, because I'm not sure how to actually see the answers of those. Look at me talking about tech, but not being able to use the tech. And just some stats here to kind of follow on from that. So 66% of CEOs believe that HR departments can benefit from using AI. HR leaders have 81% of HR leaders have explored or implemented AI solutions. And 52% of HR leaders intend to use AI to improve employee experience going forward. So despite some of those fears that we spoke about, some of those challenges that might come up in terms of bias and replacement of your role, there still seems to be quite an appetite and a demand to utilize this to make our lives a lot easier and to be able to have a bigger impact with our strategy in the workplace. And I wonder if that's something that you've seen, Michael, when you've been exhibiting or out talking to people about the product that you have.
I think so. I think every conversation has an element of AI in it now. It's AI and hyper-personalization, which I think you need both of them to go hand in hand to make it really a clean engagement process for any employee. But I think I don't think there's any meeting I go to anymore that doesn't have AI somewhere mentioned in the process. But you say it can be to do the smaller things. It can just be because you want to help rewriting how you. I mean, you see it on LinkedIn. You can rewrite your post now with AI. Yeah. If you want to make it more engaging.
Or you don't even have to read a post anymore. You can just put like insights, and it will just tell you what that person said.
Yeah. So there's everywhere you go. There's something else we're going to pick up and learn from. But I think again, technology in HR space is exciting. The AI is another element to that, but I think it's all about trying to invoke behavior from our teams that actually want to go and use the system. That's the key part, and that's what I think, seeing helloFriday today as well, seeing how you guys work, it's got that ability to attract people, which is I think super cool.
Yeah, absolutely key. And again, that was something that was crucial within helloFriday. When we started to build the platform, is something that brings people back in, something gets buy-in from not just your HR team or your board because it's a means to an end. It gets buy-in from the employee workforce as well because they enjoy using it and they feel the benefit of the platform as well. So to finish, because that 40 minutes has gone super fast, I wanted to finish on a discussion point of what do we envision the future of HR tech to look like, or the future of HR to look like with the support of HR tech. And I suppose from my perspective, I sort of envision a world where AI is driving a lot of the automation process through nudge, being able to take a lot of those administration processes, automate them, not only for your HR teams, but for your managers as well, and being able to allow us to focus on what truly matters, which is much more of the strategic processes and policies that we want to implement within our businesses. But also maybe managers as well, being able to give the tools and the profiles through AI and through the tools that we have to help train and guide them on how to best manage their teams and being able to create a workforce that's much more engaged and productive through the tools that we have. I don't know, from your perspective, Michael, how do you envision HR looking in the future?
Two different views on that. I think one is, we talked about earlier on already, about helping, and it's in the chat window, helping to remove bias, monitoring for well-being, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So very much a moral side. I think that will get stronger with the aid of capability within AI and other tools that I'm sure will come out in the next year we don't know about yet. Things that part of HR. I think the continued progression towards that talent intelligence and the value of HR data in economic reviews, and how that can help doing all sorts of scenario modeling. But I think because it said the word world on there, I'm back to Mars from 2 weeks ago, going, so how do you govern two worlds? You've got a workforce in Mars and a workforce on Earth. How do you talk to them? How do you have Teams calls in real time when you've got a problem to solve? How does your AI robot go and charge itself on a stand that's running out? And that swarm technology sits around it. So that word is the one that's sticking around at the moment. Again, there's a lot of new things going to come out, and I think it's a super exciting space. But it's also quite an overloading space. So you get loads of ideas. You got like somehow back to what your previous slide talks about vendor selection. Is going to that vendor selection process, realistically looking at it for today's purpose, but with a future of like, what's the roadmap for this product in 2 years' time? Let me see that visibility so that you make an investment now that's going to be good for that 2 years' time. So it's evolving, a bit overwhelming. If it is to really I think we all feel the same way. Just find your sources and make sure you know your problem you're trying to answer so that you can address that specifically first. And then I think it'd be a good pathway.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more in terms of looking at the roadmap. Things change so quickly now, more than ever. So, when you're tied into a platform, you do want to know that actually 2-3 years down the line, you're going to be able to have the same features that other businesses or other providers are giving as we go. The polls just popped up, completely distracted me. So in terms of so the biggest fear that HR professionals have, actually the correct answer was the loss and replacement of jobs. So 65% of HR leaders do have a fear that AI will replace their roles, but security concerns is very much up there as well. So thank you for those who kind of responded on that one. I'm not sure where the answer to the other one is, but I'm sure we'll find out at some point. But yeah, in terms of where do we envision the future of HR? I think, being able to, here we go. The answer was 25%, actually, interestingly enough. 25% of businesses are already using some form of AI to guide their people strategy. That could be anything from writing a job description in ChatGPT through to more advanced AI within learning platforms or performance platforms that exist already. But interesting to see that it's already very much being adopted. But I think, just to finish in terms of one more point as to where I envision HR going in the world of HR tech as well. I think having all-in-one platforms that are able to connect you from wherever you want to work is a massive thing as well. Gone are the days of 9-to-5 offices. I think the HR tech that we have now really allows us to be more flexible, more remote, more accessible, and work in a number of different capacities that we haven't been able to do before. And I think that will continue to grow as well as tech becomes much more accessible as we go on. So we're running out of time a little bit, but we will be sending these slides out, and there's a little bit here about helloFriday and about Equip as well in terms of what we do as platforms. If there are any questions, please do reach out to us directly. Myself and Michael are always keen to answer questions about the platforms that we have and the features that they have. We'll also be sending out a checklist as well that we've created, which will help you not only implement new HR tech, but also to ensure that any tech that you have currently within your workplace is successfully implemented and working. So this is something we'll be sending out to those as well. Oh, here we go. I've pressed something. We are running short on time, but if you do have any questions, we'd love to hear them. So please do pop them in the chat box now if you have any. But otherwise, that leads me to say thank you for joining us on the hottest day of the year. If you are in the UK, I know that you could be outside in the sun. So thank you very much for joining us on today's call and exploring a little bit more about HR tech and AI. And thank you, Michael, for joining me. It's been great having you here.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. Really enjoyed it. I'm sure there's lots of conversations we can still have. As I said, reach out, happy to talk and chat through ideas and thoughts. But yeah, thank you again for hosting, and Abrar in the background, thank you for your work to keep everything moving with us.
Yes, thank you, Abrar. Yeah, keeping it all together. And also, please feel free to connect with either of us on LinkedIn, constantly sharing content around this topic, and we'll be sharing some follow-up information from this. So yeah, always good to have a conversation and to see more people getting involved in the conversations that we're having. But yeah, otherwise that leads me to leave you for today. So thank you very much, and we'll be sending out some of these resources following on from today's call. But enjoy the rest of the day. Go out there, get out in the sunshine and enjoy. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Hannah. Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.